The recording has started.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. I will call this meeting of the State Aviation Board to order. Thank you everyone for your patience as we work through our executive session. For those online, please use the raised hand function or type your name in the chat if you'd like to make a public comment during the public comment section. And I will now turn this over to Alexis for roll call.
Much. Bill Grubb.
Present.
Jim Knight.
Present.
Sarah Lucas. Present. Steve Nagy.
Present.
Brian Prang sent us an email to let us know he's unable to attend. Is this excused?
Yes.
Thank you. Jeff Pritchard. I don't see him in the attendee. He may be having some issues. So we'll see if he pops in later. And then Catherine Stevens.
Present.
Okay, we do have a quorum, and that concludes roll call.
Okay, very good. We will move to public comment. Do we have speakers?
Yes. So first, I would like to acknowledge written comment that we received from Matt Birch regarding the Independent State Airport PAPIs. All written comments were forwarded to the board for their review. For each speaker, please state your name, city of residence, and any affiliation for the record. So let me take a look here. People, so it looks like we have, well, let's see. Let's start with, it looks like I have a written one, Wendy Hellington. Let me see if I can give them permission to their speaker. Wendy, make presentation. Okay, Wendy, you should have permissions now. Are you able to unmute? Oh, it doesn't look like you unmuted. Give me one quick moment, Wendy. I'm sorry. Let's try this again. I will remove permission and then make a presenter. Okay, try again.
Thank you.
Yes, there we go. Now we can hear you, Wendy. Please state your name for the record for us.
Thank you. My name is Wendy Killington Lake Oswego. I am a lawyer and I represent the Aurora Airport Improvement Association, which is an association of private aviation interests that have invested some $100 million at the Aurora State Airport. The agenda says you're going to be making a decision on a settlement proposal to settle City of Aurora's latest lawsuit against you. Please do not do that. Let whatever settlement idea is being floated first see the light of day so people who care about the airport, you and AAIA, can make a good and informed decision. We have never seen this thing, and we have asked. While we can't give you any feedback about something we've never seen, we can see a lot by looking. And looking says you're being asked to make a hasty decision on a matter of tremendous importance, essentially in secret. You should advise your staff you want the proposal made public, you want to take testimony about it, you want to decide whether it makes any sense at all at your next meeting, because that's in your interest and your responsibility, and here's why. The state stands to lose a lot as fiduciaries protecting the state's investment in the airport, and the airport stakeholders have as much or more to lose. This litigious city is an Exhibit 1 airport hater, making up reasons to despise the airport so it can hope to force annexation and soak it for money. It's been plain about that. That's what it wants. This litigious city seriously asks the 2025 legislature to stop business jet activity at the airport, among other important economic and social objectives the airport serves the city doesn't like. The city's litigation is frankly nonsense. It basically asks the court to tell you you can't adopt your master plan without following the law. Look, ODAV answered that lawsuit and said, yeah, we know, we have to follow the law. That's what we're doing. What more is there to say? What is there to settle? You should not reward this litigious city for suing you again. because once you do that, you can expect this to be the new strategy for every airport hater at every airport, sue you with some lawsuit and then demand you settle it. In sum, please do not adopt whatever this thing is today, and tell your staff that you'd like it to please be made public, allow stakeholders to weigh in about its perils, that from this city's history we assume are many, and then make an informed fiduciary decision at your next meeting or the meeting after. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Our next person has their hand raised, Betsy Johnson. I will go ahead and give them permission to their mic. Betsy, you should be able to unmute yourself now. Please state your name.
I believe I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Betsy Johnson. My address is in Oregon. I'm a former state senator, and for 5 years, I ran the agency that you now represent. I am making public comment, or trying to, on item 4, but it's very difficult because there is so little information. Ms. Kellington made a very good case. The issues around Aurora remain supercharged and litigious. My concern is how non-communicative the agency is and has been. The public doesn't know anything about the settlement framework that was probably discussed in the executive session that delayed this meeting. The elements matter. Is there a subtext? Does the settlement include some hidden agenda about city involvement or annexation of the airport? Words matter. There is such a paucity of public engagement and information. What the public doesn't know then is filled in with speculation, suspicion, angst, and lawyers. The chair has admonished me not to be so critical of the agency, but it is incredibly difficult to do when there is so little meaningful public engagement. So, Madam Chair, I apologize, but I will renew my request that the agency be more transparent about agency business, respond to public inquiries like return phone calls, be more engaged with the general aviation community that the agency was established to serve. Don't continue to keep the public in the dark about Aurora. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else online who would like to make public comment? Please use the raise hand function or type your name in the chat. I'll give a quick moment here. See if anybody would like to give any more public comment. Seeing none, that would conclude our public comment section. Chair Stevens?
Okay, thank you. So, did you have something else, Alexis?
Nope, sorry.
Nope. Okay, good. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you to the folks that commented today. We do appreciate hearing from you. So that moves us to number 4, which is the decision on an offer by the city of Aurora to settle pending litigation. And I will send that to Stacy, I believe.
Thank you. Do I? Yes. Thank you, Chair Stevens. So yes, as Ms. Kellington just laid out, and for the rest of the audience and the board knows, that there is litigation that was filed on April 9th by the city of Aurora against the department and the board. And again, Ms. Kellington is correct about what they ask. And that's simply that they asked the board to follow a process that the board was already committed to following. So we do have a settlement offer that was made, and I don't know if I can put something in the chat, but I could actually it was by email form, and I'm happy to share what it was.
That would be great.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if the best thing to do, if I have that, Alexis, should I put something in the chat or should I just share it?
I would share it. The chat has been disabled.
Okay. All right, let's see. So this is pretty much it. Let me move this over. I just did a cut and paste from the city attorney's email to Nicole DeFever, the AAG from trial, who's representing the board and the department in this matter. Again, as Ms. Kellington laid out, the board actually and the department in their answer to the complaint said that the board will be following this public process with the adoption of the plan. And my understanding of the complaint is they are asking a court to direct the agency and the board to adopt the plan and issue its state agency coordination findings in a public hearing before the airport layout plan is sent off to FAA for signature and before the department signs it. So as part of our answer to the complaint, that's exactly what we said, is that is already the plan. The city's attorney, David Robinson, reached out to Nicole DeFever and said, well, hey, it looks like you guys are doing exactly what we asked. Why don't we attempt to settle it? So he presented these settlement terms. So the first one is that Aviation and the board agree to issue a statement in public and to the committee, which I assume is the Public Action Committee, explaining that the procedural timeline will be to hold a public hearing in Marion County for review and approval of the findings of the master plan, to adopt the master plan and the findings. And then after that, and then, as he says, and then the department and FAA will sign the airport layout plan. And then he wants the statement to cite to, this is your state agency coordination rule, and then this is your statutory obligation to coordinate when you have a land use decision. So that's the first part of it. The second part is the city of Aurora and the mayor specifically would like that statement to be issued within 5 miles of the airport. So, excuse me. So I think they're asking for an additional public hearing where the statement will be made, and they want it within 5 miles of the airport. They've requested that that meeting be held in Wilsonville and that it be held at Wilsonville's February 2026 meeting. So this is the sum total of the offer. The board can either choose to accept or reject this settlement offer. One of the other discussions was to delegate your authority to settle to the director, to Kenji, to Director Shigahara, so that he can work in real time. And so that is the request for today, to either accept the settlement or to delegate authority to the director to accept the settlement offer or counter the settlement offer or accept in part or reject in part. And we do have a proposed delegation for you to consider for Director Shigahara. So I'm gonna roll down to that. And so basically what this does, and this is pending the board's discussion on this and where you go and what you want to do with the settlement, but assuming that the board is agreeable, just scrolling around, assuming the board is agreeable to this first part, and agreeable to this first part because, let me say again, this is something you've already agreed to do. And in fact, I believe it's the December public hearing is currently slated for approval, or excuse me, for the department to present the draft master plan and the findings to the board in Salem, which is in Marion County, for review and approval. So this is already going to happen, and it will not, the department will not submit this to FAA for final signature or sign the plan itself until there's a final adoption made. So basically, you would be directing Kenji to approve a settlement to do these things you've already agreed to do, but to reject the second part. And so this would all be up to you for discussion, but that's what, and we can mess around with the delegation if that's not what you want to do. But essentially, the board would delegate to the director your authority to accept the settlement offer, except for the requirement that that public statement be made in a meeting within 5 miles of the city of Aurora. And then allowing further delegating to the director the authority to counter the offer and to essentially accept a settlement offer along those same terms. But if it does substantively change, that we would return to the board. So with that, I think if, unless there's any other questions, I think that's about what I have for you today.
All right, thank you so much, Stacy. And I will just start with a couple of comments. The first is, I appreciate the members of the public who commented, and I will just say it is reasonable and well advised by the legal counsel for the State Aviation Board to consider the direction and legal advice that she's giving us instead of having this fully out there first. It's a legal action. We needed to be able to understand that legal action before making that settlement offer public, which we have now done. So I just wanted to point that out. There's a certain order to things that we need to do when we're dealing with a legal matter. And then the other piece that I would say is I will just frankly express frustration that we are having to acknowledge through a settlement offer that we will follow the process for which we were already following. So I don't know if any other board members have comments on this.
Yes, Chair. Oh, Jim, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jim.
Stacy, are you in a position that you can make a recommendation to the board of what we should do at this point?
No, at this point, it's up to the board to decide. This is, as your DOJ cannot make your settlement decisions for you. That's something as the client, this is entirely up to you. I can tell you that the department has determined that it does not want to accept the 0.2, that accepting 0.1. And if you understand what I mean by 0.1, it's basically the process that you're already following, that's agreeable with the department, but the part 2 is problematic. And I'm sure that Kenji, the director, can speak to that.
So I have to tell you, it does feel like this settlement, and I agree with Chair Stevens, is that this is, I'm putting it in a little bit different words, but this settlement seems to be being shoved down our throats. I'm not clear as what would be the repercussions or potential repercussions if we just either table the decision for the time being or just outright say no. What would be the ramifications of either one of those two options?
So I can tell you, excuse me, board member Knight, just as a matter of the trial timeline, what would happen is that this matter would not be set for trial. I assume that your trial counsel would probably bring a motion for summary judgment. And so you would be paying the Department of Justice to do all of these motions, to appear and argue on your behalf. And then I have no idea whether a motion would be granted or not. I couldn't guarantee the outcome. But if you lost, you would then be going to trial on this matter. So those are just the real world
Well,
implications.
I think I'm a little confused. If we table this matter to a different date so that we have more time to listen to the public and we have more time that we can internally discuss as a board, what is the appropriate course of action? But to make a choice right at this moment seems like we're moving a little bit too fast.
So unfortunately, you're not working within your own timelines.
Yeah.
So we do have a status conference that's set for October. I assume at that status conference, a trial will likely be set. Trial counsel can request any kind of stay or for deadlines to be pushed off, but the city of Aurora would also have to be agreeable to that. If they weren't, then we would have to do additional motion practice to request a stay and deadlines. So we're trying to work within the parameters of timelines that are set by a circuit court. And unfortunately, if we table this at this point, that means, remember, you have to make all of your decisions in an open public session. So we wouldn't be having this discussion again for, I think, another 2 months, because I believe the next hearing, I think your next meeting would be a work session. And it's not that you can't call a meeting, you always can. But it's up to you. It's your prerogative if you want to hear more about it. But this is, it's really, sometimes settlement is just a business decision.
So I will jump in here. Kenji, I'll come to you. I just want to say, Jim, we're not making decisions about anything earth shattering here. Honestly, we are literally acknowledging that we will do the process that we have said we were going to do, and in fact are doing. And then the point number 2, in that settlement offer, it's just not reasonable for the State Aviation Board to have to throw our schedule out and move a meeting to a location when we already have an open and public process at all of our board meetings, both in person and hybrid online. So it doesn't make sense to move a meeting to Wilsonville when we already have an open process. And then as far as delegation, that just allows Kenji to move forward with the direction of the board and settle this matter. There are additional legal costs that should be a consideration in this matter because, in my opinion, it is frivolous. And so it would be better to just be done with this matter.
Well-
Kenji.
Well, then one last question. This is for Kenji. Kenji, are you comfortable with moving in this direction?
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest thing is the way I see the settlements, it's an easy way to get rid of litigation, right? Quickly, easily, at much less cost. When we're dealing with litigation, the meter runs. Sorry, Stacy, but the meter does run. And as the agency, we know we try to use the funds as best as possible. We want to reduce costs as much as possible. And this is an easy way to do it. We're going to be doing what the settlement already says, except for at least from the department's point of view, for point 2, we're just going to say no to that section. So it's only point 1 or the section 1 that we're really agreeing to from the department. So for you at the board, I'd recommend the same. So, but again, that's a decision that the board has to make because it's separate. So,
Thank you.
Steve?
Sorry, my hand raising function has been disabled, so I had to manually raise my own hand. I appreciate, and Chair Stevens, I share your same thoughts on this. Point 1, and as Kenji said, is the process that was already agreed upon. It's actually the process that is required by the FAA, plus the state's process in order for adoption. So it's melding of the actual state process for land use adoption as well as for the federal process for acceptance of the ALP. So really don't have a problem with point 1. I do have a problem, like everybody else has said, with point 2. And I don't know that we've talked about this, but the request is that we follow, basically point 1 is that we follow the process, but yet now point 2 is adding something different outside of the process to now not follow the process by doing a different additional meeting. So it's really not even following the process that we've all agreed upon is how the adoption occurs. So it's kind of counterintuitive to their own argument about following the process of adoption of the master plan. I am totally fine and acceptable. And as Kenji said, and as others have said as well, avoiding litigation and the risks associated with that, essentially, and I appreciate the comments of the public who have been in attendance, but avoiding the risks associated with litigation when you don't know the outcome, even if you don't like the fact of, a settlement agreement that it makes you do essentially what you've already said you're going to do. It takes that off the table, at least with point 1. I do have concerns and objections to the point 2 part of it. So we'll just stating that for the record here as well. But point 1 is the process that all master plans follow. It's the process that we've already agreed upon. And if that removes that as an objection here from this plaintiff, then a settlement on point 1 is acceptable from my perspective. But point 2 is actually now violating the process that they want us to do, that follows the process that they want us to follow.
Thanks, Steve. All right, I'm looking for other hands up from board members. Okay, so then here's what I will do. Oh, my chat's turned off, Alexis. So I can't put anything in the chat. I was just trying to put the proposed motion up.
I can make that available to you really quickly. When you want.
Chair Stevens, I can also share that delegation on my screen.
Sure, go ahead and do it that way.
And someone could just say I move.
We're Teams challenge today. Okay, there we go. So what we would need at this point, if you want to take a moment to read through this again, board members, I would need a motion, discussion, and then a second and then discussion, sorry. And I I'm looking for hands up because I'm not necessarily going to see everybody at the same time.
Can't see my hand, but I'll
Okay,
go ahead
Steve,
and
I
make
see your
that
hand now.
motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make that motion as for this for proposal. And would you like me to read it?
Would you please?
Thank you. The proposed delegation. The board delegates to the director of the Department of Aviation the board's authority to accept a settlement offer made by the city of Aurora based on terms currently offered by the city, except for the requirement that a public meeting be held within 5 miles of the airport to announce the terms of the settlement. The director is further delegated the board's authority to counter the city's settlement offer and accept any counter offer that are consistent with the board's process of adopting an airport master plan, except that the director must return to the board before accepting any settlement offer that is substantively different than the plaintiff's last offer.
And then if you say
I'll
so
second.
move, Steve, then we
So
would have a motion. Okay.
I'll
And then the
second.
second came from
Bill,
Bill. Okay. And do we have any discussion? Kenji, I saw your hand up.
No, it was just I want to make sure that Steve made the actual motion.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Jim, go ahead.
I think the very last sentence, I think needs a little bit of clarity. The director must return to the board before accepting any settlement offer. Shouldn't that read, must return to the board in a public meeting?
That would be, I think, assumed. Is that correct, Stacy?
It is. It is. But it's also not a big, it's not a big deal to add it. Well, yeah, so, but I want to, the only thing to clarify is that we can say in a public meeting, but what about executive session? Because
Yeah.
you as a board.
We would
have
need to do executive session first.
it would be an
likely.
executive session.
Yeah.
So I think that the way it's stated, Jim, it allows it to, it would come back to the board, which likely would be an executive session first and then into an open board meeting. So I don't know that we need that clarification.
I mean, that's the law
Chair
for all
Stevens.
things.
It is the law.
It's Chair Stevens, to your point, I would start having to recraft that settlement. I would have to say a whole lot of things like, and if there is a reason for an executive session to return to executive session, otherwise it would be an open public meeting. But as written, Member Knight, this should be an assume that this will be in a public meeting or executive session, whatever is appropriate, because the board cannot meet otherwise.
Correct.
Okay.
Comments from other board members? Scrolling through. Okay, unless there are any further discussion, then I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Oh, Alexa, I caught myself this time. Alexis would like to do roll call now.
Yes, Bill Gropp,
Aye.
Jim Knight, Jim, could you
Aye.
unmute? Oh, thank you. Sarah Lucas,
Aye.
Steve Nagy,
Aye.
Brian Prang is excused and absent. Jeff Pritchard, and I believe he has not been able to join. Would his absence be excused? I believe
I know he's on a fire, so yes.
Okay, okay. And then Chair Stevens, Captain Stevens.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you so much for working through that, everybody. And then we will move to number 5, which on the agenda is a decision regarding acquisition of real property interest for project to remove obstructions at Joseph State Airport. And so I guess, Tony, are you the one that's going to tell us about this?
Yes, so I and Century West had this agenda topic, and following our previous discussion, we were wondering if we wanted to have this project overview now or continue the discussion in a future meeting?
I think that, and we can take a consensus here, if we would like to have another executive session that covers this topic more broadly for the board first. And do we need to do an action on that, Alexis, or can we just decide to not take action on this right now? And we've already directed staff that we would like to have more information in another executive session.
Chair Stevens and Alexis, would you like me to jump in?
Yeah.
So there are a couple of options. You could just continue this hearing to the next, you could continue this part of the hearing to the next public meeting, which I believe is, I'm sorry, we changed the hearing schedule, so I don't know if it's October or November. The other, I do want to just throw out there, I know we were talking about the resolution itself, but my understanding is Century West is at least prepared to talk to you about what property is needed and what the project is. And so maybe since they are here with that presentation, that they could go ahead and just not have a decision. You could put off the decision until another time.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly have Century West present the information. I would like to just make an overarching statement that when we're talking about real property interest, as Stacy was able to clarify for us in our executive session, really the baseline we're trying to address is trees in approach surfaces. So we're not talking about taking property. We're not talking about people losing ownership of their land or anything like that. What we're talking about is, hey, there's some trees that are penetrating our imaginary surfaces that we need to take care of. But under council, we're being told there is a certain way we need to go about doing that to make sure that landowners are fairly compensated. So with that, we asked for some additional information about that process. In the meantime, if we want to talk about this case specifically, and Century West can kind of shed light on that for us, just from what's the aviation issue here with the tree height, then that would be fine.
All right. So Tom Headley and James Kirby are here with Century West. And Tom, I'm not sure if you're able to share your screen, but I have the presentation here if you need.
Thank you, Tony and the board. Are you able to hear me? Great.
Yes, we can hear you.
And yeah, thank you for putting that up. I didn't want to risk sharing the screen there and having that go awry on me. Well, I will keep this brief. I'm Tom Headley with Century West Engineering, working directly with James Kirby and Matt Rogers and Ryan Halverson here from the team as well. My goal then, as I hear it, I just would like to present a very brief overview of the Joseph State Airport easement acquisition project. And so we'll jump into this with the next slide. Really briefly, this presentation is meant to address the definition of the project, the purpose, as you were talking about here, a real quick overview of the timeline, and then the next steps on that. And you see in the graphic here, you can see at the very bottom of that graphic, the runway 15 and for orientation, realizing right now that I should have given you a large statewide view to show you where we are and focused on this spot. But these are the two in light red shade, the two properties in question that have on them obstructions, trees or poles. Next slide, please. This project is aimed to acquire limited navigation easements over two parcels, and the objective is to improve airspace safety at the Joseph State Airport. Very importantly, as you've seen in previous documentation as well, the acquisition is subject to payment of just compensation, and the acquisition is also subject to the procedural requirements of Oregon law and the Federal Aviation Administration, the Federal Yellow Book procedure for easement acquisition. And next slide. Getting to the purpose of this, this isn't a new project. This is something that has been identified since, well, actually, I'll give you the timeline in a little bit here, but most recently, the 20-to-1 approach surface was identified as having obstructions within it. And so very simply, those are trees within the protected airspace of the runway 15 approach. There's also a pole, a utility pole that exists within that airspace. As we are all familiar, the FAA has policy guidance that promotes safe and efficient use of the navigable airspace. This does include the removal of obstructions or the avoidance of obstructions being allowed to penetrate the surfaces, or the lighting and marking of those obstructions. That's the purpose of this project, is to be able to do that. And here's an image that shows what we're talking about. These red silos come from airports GIS software, or AGIS software. This was produced during the most recent airport master plan. The AGIS work on this identified these trees. We have a cottonwood, we have Engelmann spruce, and we've got a utility pole. Point is, there are known obstructions within this airspace, and so the objective again is to see these lighted or removed. And next slide. To do that, though, an easement is required on the property. So obviously the state has no interest in coming into a person's property and removing anything on it or touching anything on it without the proper process. This project is that process. So to obtain a limited aviation easement would allow the Oregon Department of Aviation the right of flight. I won't read through all of these, but effectively have the ability to remove and prevent the erection of obstructions within the navigable airspace of the runway 15 end. So that's the purpose of this project, put simply, is to acquire the necessary easements on each parcel in question. And the next slide. This is where I wanted to just mention again that the project is not new. This is most recently, the most farthest back I found this record was 1993 with an airport airspace drawing that identified obstructions in the airspace. The most recent AGIS and airport master plan process conducted through 2020 and 2022 through confirmation with flight procedures team shows these obstructions are preventing the night use of an instrument approach procedure that is being considered for Joseph. So without getting too much into the details there, the summary of this and reading through the master plan, and I know several of you are well aware of this master plan and this process. Right now, air ambulance in a remote region of Joseph is limited in its use at the airport, in part due to these obstructions. In 2022 through the very end of 2024, property and obstruction surveys were performed to dial in what was seen from satellite imagery and through AGIS to actually on the ground verify obstructions, their definition, their nature, their height. That process led to an environmental assessment as well. That environmental assessment was necessary through the FAA's approval of the project to potentially be reimbursable through FAA funding. So that two pieces were in place to lead up to what is now happening, is the determination of the cost of easement acquisition for all parcels. And the next step, or next slide, ostensibly the future project is to, once acquired, permission to enter the land and remove obstructions within the airspace. The project would do just that. It would lower or remove trees entirely, following FAA guidance and the agreement of the terms of the aviation easement, and then place a red obstruction light on top of that utility pole. So it's fixed generally by function and cost, but putting a light on top of it would comply with the FAA's safety requirements for the airspace. Next slide. Next steps, and this is where we are currently, is the statement of necessity. So working through the emails with the Western Flight Procedures team, the statement of need is there. These obstructions need to be improved for an instrument approach procedure, RNAV procedure, and night minimums to be reduced. That need statement needs to carry through for the project language to be consistent, and simply put, it's a need versus a want. Does the state want for these obstructions to be removed, or does the state need for these obstructions to be removed? And that's the declaration of a resolution of necessity. So the approach for the the process of negotiation and discussing with homeowners, because we're all well aware, if we put ourselves into the position of a homeowner who's near an airport and hears that there's an easement being considered for their airspace, a lot of questions and concerns are raised immediately. So the tone and the approach and the procedure follows very much the open and engaged and transparent process. The key component of that initial contact is that the statement can be made confidently that this easement acquisition is needed for the safe and efficient use of the airport, versus wanted or not stated at all. And so that really is the crux of the question today. Is the resolution of necessity allows the project team and the department to move forward with a statement of need in that initial discussion. And that is as high level and quick as I wanted to keep that. So thank you for the opportunity to just give a brief overview of where we are today.
All right, thank you so much for that. Tony, did you have anything else to add?
The project overview and members of the board appreciate all the discussion on this. We certainly can bring more information on this resolution and on the projects that we have. This is not the only obstruction removal project that we're working on. We have significantly larger scale projects and a great need at the Aurora State Airport, the Malino State Airport, and the Chiloquin State Airport. And we do rely on federal funding to get to both acquire the easements and remove the obstructions. And we certainly are not interested in any kind of effort that we do not have to do to get the trees down. But in some cases, this resolution will equip us with the tools that we need in order to get obstructions removed. And so our recommendation is for the board to adopt a resolution of necessity, and we're happy to continue the conversation in a future meeting.
All right, thank you, Tony. Steve, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you both for the background and presentation and the scale. I think you said it there, Tony. This is the first of possibly several other obstruction removal processes. And obviously, again, as we were discussing, there is a process for which to go by in order to do that in a methodical and legal step manner process for that. Though this might be maybe the most simplest, and it's certainly the easiest one, and perhaps the easiest one, and it's the first out of the gate. I really feel, getting more information going forward and ensuring that the process is solid, because you're going to repeat this process. Whatever we do here with Joseph, even if this is the least complex one to do, as you get into the more complex ones, I'm sure you and your team want to make sure that the process is as thorough and as legally prescribed as necessary to complete those in the more complex environments of the other airports. So whatever we do out of the gate here, you're absolutely right, should be something that is going to be followed on later. So, getting it right here means getting it right later. So if that means taking a little more time, I'm accepting of that.
And thank you, Steve, as well. I just want to add that because we do rely on federal funding for the obstruction removal, the FAA is requiring the easements so that we will have the ability to go in and continue to remove any future obstructions in that parcel and not require such a large effort later, because we do continue to have other obstructions grow up into the airspace, and so this will give us that ability.
All right. Other questions, comments from board members? Okay, so then in our executive session, we talked about having an additional executive session that would give us more detail. Unless I hear from a board member who would rather move forward with this right now, then we can just direct staff to bring this back to us in an additional executive session and then on to an open session. Okay. I think that's what we're doing. All right, very good. Thank you. Okay, how's everybody doing? It's almost noon. Do we need a quick break? Do you want to keep plowing forward? Anybody have thoughts? Anybody really need a bio break? Okay, then I'm gonna, not hearing an urgent need for a bio break, I think we'll just plow forward if that's okay. So we will move on to the aviation GIS update and discussion with Brandon.
Good morning, almost afternoon, everyone. I'm gonna share my screen here. You can see that. Can you all see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yes,
excellent.
thank you.
Thank you. Um, So Chair Stevens, Vice Chair Nagy, other members of the board, thank you for letting me present today. I'm Brandon Pike. I'm the aviation planner with the Department of Aviation. And I'm here to talk about GIS implementation at ODAV. And for those unaware, GIS just stands for Geographic Information Systems. And that's really just digital mapping or storing or displaying data that has geographic components. So recently, the department got some additional GIS software. We've used it in some pretty limited capacities for years, but we got some more powerful software recently through a vendor called Esri, kind of one of the industry leaders. And it's some software that we'll be able to kind of use with interacting with the public and more like lay people. And I think that's really going to allow us to make some improvements agency wide. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. We'll be able to better track and store our own data and imagery that we collect. And also, like I said, it'll allow us to hopefully better communicate and coordinate with the public and all of our partner agencies. So today, what I wanted to talk about for kind of demo, I can exit that, and I'm going to just kind of do a little demonstration here. So hopefully, can you all see the map now? I want to make sure. Yeah, that
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So yeah, I just wanted to show off the new software a little bit. This is a web-based version of the program, ArcGIS Online, and this is the Oregon Aviation System, what I put together so far. So it's pretty bare bones at the moment, I will warn. What I've built so far is an airports layer showing all of the public use airports in the state. I've also imported various layers from both state and federal sources that I think will be helpful as we kind of build out the map. So if we zoom in, where was I going to go here? Down to Oak Ridge here. So you can see just with the little simple iconography we have so far, you click on the plane here and it identifies the airport, Oak Ridge State. But one of the layers that I've already pulled in that I think will be helpful is from the FAA, and it's a layer showing all the public use runways around the entire country. So if you click on a given runway, of course, Oak Ridge just has the one. Up pops this little splash screen with various data that's stored about that given runway. Things like dimensions, right? Length and width. Also the runway materials. So this one's asphalt, and so there's a little code indicating asphalt. So ultimately, the goal is to make this a bit prettier over time, make it a little easier to understand for the public. kind of rearrange or even hide some data that doesn't, that 99% of users won't really use. But it's a good starting point, I think, and I plan to build out a legend that will kind of explain some of the data that's in these layers. So that's one of the pieces of the map. Like I said, soon the idea is to make this all available to the public and our partner agencies. Um, and let's see. Uh, yeah, and like I said again, sorry to keep repeating myself, but it's going to start out pretty bare bones probably, but we'll be able to just kind of add to it as we get more data and collect more imagery. Um, and we can kind of constantly push out updates as we have them. So kind of speaking of that, in terms of future plans and improvements to the map, I thought I'd highlight some of the things that we plan to do. Um, a big one for me as the aviation planner for the department is to show Part 77 surfaces for all of the public use airports in the state. So being able to overlay primary surface, horizontal surface, all the approach surfaces, right? Um, have that display on the map. I think that'll just be so helpful for coordinating development and land use around these airports for understanding height limitations and especially with property owners, residents, the local zoning authority. That's going to be a lifesaver as far as I'm concerned. And we already have some of that data. And I think with this program, we're going to be able to build out the rest. So that's something exciting that's coming. Let's see. Another thing that I want to put in here is airport overlay zones. So a lot of the local jurisdictions, as required by state law, have adopted airport overlay zones into their comprehensive plans and zoning maps to actually protect the airspace, right? And so being able to overlay that, I think will be, just very beneficial. Things like noise contours as well, we'll be able to plug into here. And over time it will definitely update the iconography. It's pretty just kind of shows the location of the airports now, but the idea is to change the style of the icons based on public or private ownership, airport category, maybe even like commercial versus GA airports, heliports, things like that, right? So uh, other things I'm planning on adding include different base maps. So right now we have kind of a standard uh, just satellite image base map that's from the USDA. Um, but I want to add in some things like sectional charts, um, and and then we'll talk about like some more detailed aerial imagery here in a second. So that's something that's coming. And I guess the next thing I wanted to cover was some aerial imagery and drone shots. So I think, as you're all, I'm sure, aware, we have a lot of great drone photos of our airports. And so I think, using this program, we'll be able to highlight some of those photos that we've taken, but as well as, kind of top-down plan view aerial images. So recently, the engineering and surveying crew over at ODOT took some nice high quality drone photos of the Santiam Junction State Airport. So this is it here, and you can kind of see. If I zoom in here, you can see kind of where they've stitched it. You've got your standard satellite images on the bottom right here. And then this is the actual drone photo that they took, much higher quality, right? And I'm working on getting the right permissions to import this into, we're working with Esri right now to get this imported into this map. So if I go up to Santiam Junction, must be here. You can kind of see it's just kind of standard fare satellite imagery. Nothing to call home about, but soon we'll be able to have this type of imagery, and you can see individual bushes and rocks basically. And the idea is to have this for any of the airports that we are able to collect it for around the state. And so once that drone imagery is collected, I can then stitch it or geo-reference it onto our map, and so we can get this really high quality imagery of each of our airports and all the public use airports for the state, hopefully. Um, I think it'll help with things like taking measurements. There's measurement tools in this program, and then we can do things like track changes to the airports over time, vegetation encroachment, monitoring obstructions, even to a certain extent, and then things monitoring progress of construction projects. So seeing changes over time. And we'll be able to kind of toggle between years and the different kind of as base maps, we'll be able to toggle between the different years and see those changes. And then, of course, we'll be able to update the imagery as we see fit. We're not going to be as constrained as we have been previously in terms of just being at the mercy of whenever Esri or Google updates their Google Earth satellite imagery. We'll be able to have some much higher quality images at the times that we need them, right? So that's a big thing that's coming and exciting. One of the final things that I wanted to highlight is aeronautical studies. Potentially, we're still kind of figuring this out as well, but we might be able to start doing our aeronautical studies through this program, or at least the desktop version of it. For years, we've done all of our aeronautical studies with a different program, the airspace obstacle management software. And that's been for tracking airspace and obstructions. And that program has plenty of strengths, but it doesn't have necessarily these same visual elements. And so I think this potentially is going to help us track obstructions, at least visually, a lot easier, and in ways that we can kind of share with our members of the public and the local jurisdictions and whatnot, as well as staff. And if we do move to using Esri as our vendor for doing aeronautical studies, we might end up saving them some money, which is always a plus. So stay tuned on that. And then let's see, just gonna put there. So yeah, just to kind of highlight this is just the tip of the iceberg, really. These are just a handful of the things that I thought I would mention, things that are on our radar for how we can use the tools in this program, based on what I've heard from staff so far and from my own ideas. But that just brings me to my final point, which is, as I'm working on this, I'd love to hear from all of you, members of the board, from members of the public, and the aviation community as a whole. I just would like to hear what you might want to see brought into a map like this. And like I said earlier, this isn't like a one and done situation. It's very iterative. We'll be able to make changes and tweak it over time, because I'll be managing it, and it's pretty simple to make those changes as long as we have the functionality and the right data at our hands. So yeah, there, my contact info is on the screen there, and so feel free to reach out to me. And Alexis, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have a handful of minutes here to discuss if people have questions or suggestions.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Brandon. And I'm looking for any hands up from board members. I will, I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but we have been working on, GIS data at my airport also. And one thing that we are mindful of is what is made public and what is not. And so certain parts of our infrastructure, we're careful to make sure are not made public, so that bad actors don't do something bad, right? And so I just would
Right.
advise staff to keep that in mind as well. Obviously, things that you can see from Google Earth, that's everybody can see that, but just make sure that your layers, if you are using them for more documentation around
Mhm.
maybe fiber lines or those kinds of things, that those are not made public. Sarah?
Yes, great comments, Catherine. I just wanted to thank Brandon for his work on this and on the ArcGIS website, looking at it now. And would just echo airspace, land use, zoning, items like that, I think would be very valuable to local planners who maybe don't have as much of an understanding on the airspace issues particularly, or overlays. I was curious, I'm not seeing a link on our website, the agency's website. Is that coming soon to be live, or what are the implementation for public viewing?
Yes, that great question. It's not live for the public yet, but the plan is to put it out there soon. And we'll, yeah, put it on our website for sure. I think we'll be able to even kind of embed uh, it into our website. So make it nice and easy.
Steve?
Yes, great presentation, Brandon. Are you planning to contact the other airports that maybe have, other public use airports about how
Absolutely.
to integrate their data into a statewide web base, at least certain parts of it?
Yes.
Kind of acknowledging Catherine's concern, or Chair Stevens' concern, about ensuring that we are providing the public, security acceptable levels of access to
Mhm.
information.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair, for echoing the chair's point about privacy. I think that's definitely an important conversation that we will have to have as we gather more of this data about what data is actually appropriate to broadcast out there. And your other point about coordinating with the other airports, yes, that's something that I've already begun a little bit, because a lot of people, there's a lot of great data out there that's siloed to a certain extent, and so I think if we can tap into that, that's great. Again, only sharing kind of what's appropriate. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of coordination, I think, for me over the coming year or so, in terms of collecting data from the airports and then from the jurisdictions for things like the airport overlay zones, and there's, I mean, ultimately, I'd like to put their zoning on the map as well. That would be kind of helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Also, more things to kind of keep up. So. Yeah, we'll see. Lots of discussion that comes still.
Right. Kenji?
Yeah, so this is actually a neat time because one of the things I want to let you know is we are working on a project to create an app for general aviation pilots, which will have all the information in the airport directory, and we'll be looking at ways to tie it into GIS data, because there's other GIS data out there. For example, what services are around the airports that that we could leverage data that Travel Oregon has, because Travel Oregon has a very significant database. So we're looking at ways we can leverage information from not only other airports, but from other agencies and other entities as well. So anything that we can do to support, whether it be general aviation or commercial aviation, we will definitely implement that in a safe and secure manner as well, because you were absolutely right. Cybersecurity, all those things are a concern. So thanks so much for those comments, Chair Stevens and Vice Chair Nagy as well. And Sarah, always love to hear your opinions as well. So.
All right, very good. The app sounds pretty cool. All right, I'm scrolling through to see if I see any other hands up for questions. And I don't think I do. So thank you so much, Brandon. We appreciate that presentation. And we will move on to the ASAP grant OAR updates with Andrea.
Thank you, Chair Stevens and Aviation Board. I'll share my presentation here. And we're just going to do a quick update on our rulemaking. So we began working and looking at our rules for our annual review in the spring. We worked with DOJ on this, as well as held a couple of rulemaking advisory committee meetings and brought some of the changes to the Aviation Board a couple of times as well. And so we finally put together, completed our rule updates and submitted them to the Secretary of State last month in August. They were published in the Secretary of State Bulletin earlier this week, which also started the public comment period, as well as we've scheduled a public hearing. So the public hearing will be held virtually September 17th. We'll send out a Gov delivery as well as post the meeting details on our rulemaking page online. And then the public comment period will run through September 22nd, and comments can be submitted via email to our grants@odap.oregon.gov email. And of course, public comment can also be given at the public hearing. And once we have gotten through all of that, the final rules are planned to be published on October 6th, and that is 1 week before our core application period opens on October 13th. So we will have all of those rules updated and ready to go for the new cycle. So the rule updates were made to 5 sections, and they were made really to just clarify some terms and some grant and project administration processes. And then one of the big things, of course, was clarifying the Aviation Board's ability to redistribute grant funding or reprioritize the grant applications, which of course came up in our last grant cycle. So in order to address and create a process for the board to make these changes, we updated some of the criteria for review in the rule. And we have also created a process for the board to provide a formal justification in writing that can be kept with our grant cycle documentation. So clarification will be provided on allowable actions by Aviation Board in reprioritizing and approving the core grant applications. In the August board meeting, we had provided a short list of the criteria in the rules, and the board requested references as to where those criteria came from. So we actually updated the rule to reference the ORS and OAR where the criteria is found. And again, that is the same criteria that the Aviation Review Committee uses when they're putting together their recommendations for the board. So this will really help provide a consistent review between the Aviation Review Committee and the board. And again, the process that we've created is a simple form that has these justifications listed on it. The form will be provided to the board with the applications. And then if the board decides to make any of these changes, you'll just fill out the form with what justification is used, and then that can be submitted at the approval board meeting. And then the last thing that we wanted to note is that we have been looking at possibly increasing the maximum grant amount. But due to increase in project quantity and limited program funds, we're keeping it at the max 150,000. And we did remove this section from the rules that allowed applicants to request a higher amount and request that the board approve a higher amount with additional justification. It just was sort of a confusing thing because not all applicants realized they could do this, and there was miscommunications. And so we really wanted to make sure that we keep things equal and consistent for all of our applicants and nobody misses out on available funding. So we definitely are going to review the maximum grant amount in the future. But of course, right now, the program just isn't able to sustain an increase in that amount right now. So those are all of the updates. And does the board have any questions?
Thank you so much, Andrea, for that update. And looks like you did take into consideration some of the board comments as well. So we appreciate that. Are there any questions, comments from board members? Okay, I do not see any. So thank you so much, Andrea. We appreciate your work on that. And now it's kind of always a work in progress, but it seems like we're making good progress to making a system that's fair and understandable by all. So that's great. Okay. That brings us to the end of this board meeting. I know we turned this work session into a board meeting so we could take action on an item, but in the agenda, there's not time for info share from board members, but if there's anybody that would like to let us know about something, I'll let you know. I have the blimp here for the next few days at my airport, so that's fun stuff. Anyone else? Good. Okay, great. Well, our next board meeting will be on October 2nd in Medford, and looking forward to seeing you all there. It will also be hybrid for people who want to join online. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting. Great to see everybody. Thank you.
Likewise. Bye-bye.